There comes a moment in life when you have to decide, are you playing it safe or are you all in? This is All In Empowerment, the podcast where we crush fears and step boldly into the life you were meant to live. I'm your host, Betsy Martell, coach and adventurer, here to push you past your limits and unlock your full potential. It's time to level up your life because empowerment isn't just a mindset, it's a commitment. So are you ready? Because in this space, we don't tiptoe, we go all in. All right. Good morning to All in Empowerment. I am here with Steve Nachtigal. So Steve is a friend of mine. We met a while back in self-development boot camp, if you will. And we just kind of hit it off, had the same sense of humor and kind of same mission in life, I guess you would say, same outlook. So he is... What's the best way to describe yourself? I'm going to let you do it, Steve. Normally I do this morning, but I'm going to let you do it.
In what way?
Well, it's
I mean, multifaceted here, you know.
You are, and we're going to talk about that.
PG or we have the R version. No.
Why don't we settle for PG-13?
Okay, no, that's totally cool. Well, I am me. I've been a counselor for over 35 years. I worked for the state of Kansas for 14 years, and then I moved on to private practice. I've been doing that ever since. So I think I'm coming on 23 years in private practice. At each level of my life, I wanted to go more. Wanted to go more because I think as you walk in your purpose, it evolves. You know, so and during each of those seasons of my life, I mean, back then I got married and got my first job with the state of Kansas, and started raising kids, and got our home, rebuilt the home, did all the work, and just going through those seasons of life. And then I started my private practice, even evolved that, and I bought a building in an old historic building in the town I'm in, and we totally restored it. It was a 1919, I think, building, and we took it back to the original. It's pretty amazing, a lot of work, but it's all about building. And then, oh gosh, after 25 years, long story short, I'm sure we'll get into this, but got divorced and lost everything, and I had to rebuild again. So that's what brought me to online, because I wanted to move out of my private practice, wanted to help reach more people, because my passion is really to help people overcome diagnoses of depression, anxiety, and all those things that people get labeled with. Because again, in all my clinical experience, I always say therapy does not have to take a long time. We can get after things quick, but that is not what's being taught out there by traditional mental health. So that's what I'm doing. I'm here to challenge traditional mental health and help people get set free, because a life is worth living. So if you want to really, I mean, I like your opening in your podcast, I'm an adventurer. My whole mantra is when people say, "Hey, Steve, why do you work out and everything?" I work out because I want to be ready for the next adventure. So if you really want to put me into a who
Category.
is Steve at this point? Yeah. Honestly, Betsy, it's kind of like your opening thing. I love it. It says, I'm an adventurer because life is an adventure. I know that was like a quick little from past 30 years, but that's what life has been, is an adventure.
Yeah. And we're gonna get more into kind of your earlier life, your marriage, going through divorce and all that stuff. But I want to go back to, because I know this is important to you, when you said about depression and anxiety, and basically challenging traditional medicine on that.
Yeah.
And I think we need to really talk about that connection. There's the therapy, the counseling, right? And changing your mindset, and finding new tools and better tools, right, to deal with it. But physiologically, that's your whole stay strong, stay focused, right? Because a lot of what you believe in is health, nutrition, fitness, correct? And
yes.
And I think that we don't give enough emphasis on that as far as mental health is concerned.
Right. I mean, because if you really look at it from the clinical perspective, I always do clinical like this because um, when a person comes in traditionally, the person will sit down with them, meet with them, talk with them, get kind of an assessment, and then they'll put um, a diagnosis on it. Okay, a diagnosis right off the bat. So there's the label, and that automatically puts the person into this category. Okay, and based off of research and based off of years of study, whatever, to help an individual with this kind of diagnosis, we go with this kind of treatment regimen. It could be therapy, and it could be right off medication, it could be group, and then they set up a treatment plan. And again, I'm not against any of this stuff. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying in my experience, the way I've done my programs and stuff, that works a lot better. But what they do right off the bat, we start going, well, if you have depression, well, hey, why don't we get you on some antidepressants or some anti-anxiety or something like that? They start that off right away. And to talk to your point about the physical, again, my program's based on what I call the 4 legs of the chair. Okay, mental, physical, spiritual, social. And when I talk about the spiritual, I'm not talking about, I'm just talking about purpose. Okay. And some of those basic foundational things, what I call spiritual, like forgiveness and grace and sacrifice. And when you put purpose to anything, and that's going to take our mindset off of the symptoms of depression or anxiety, because that's where we get wrapped up. But traditional mental health will traditionally, and I've heard this from a gazillion clients over my career, when they say, no, I have this diagnosis. And I'm going, yeah, no. So I act this way. I'm supposed to be this way. I'll never get rid of this. I'll always have this. Once on meds, always on meds, whatever.
You're a victim to it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You go into that victim mentality that I'm a victim of depression, I'm a victim of anxiety, and so therefore I can stay in it instead
Yes.
of taking
Yes.
control, right? It's all
Right.
about taking control because that's what mindset really is, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But if you think about it from a professional perspective, you have a professional that you're paying for, and they're giving you their professional opinion. Okay. So if I'm over here struggling, and again, I've been there. After I lost everything. There was anxiety, there was depression, there was that hopelessness. I mean, all my legs of the chair they were down here like this. And this is where people struggle with depression and anxiety and all those other, or heck, even to the point of suicidal ideations, because they get to the point where they're sitting there going, I don't know what to do, and I really don't care anymore.
Mhm.
Okay. Or addictions. Okay. Well, I don't want to commit suicide, but so you know what? Maybe I'll get drunk, or maybe I'll go here and try this, or maybe I'll try another a relationship, maybe more sex, maybe pornography. I mean, they look for anything on the table that's going to help alleviate that pain.
Mhm.
Because if you have a professional over saying you've got this definition or this diagnosis, I mean, well, gosh, the professional said so. Okay. That's where we come in, and to really challenge those things from whatever leg we're coming in. If it's a relationship, I can guarantee if you're having a tough time in your relationship, I call that social life / work. If your social life, which is your relationship, is bad, purpose starts going down because we're not aligned in a vision. Physically, maybe we're not, physically connected anymore. Maybe we're not making love anymore. Maybe we're not, there's all that kind of stuff. So that goes down. If those things go down, I can guarantee you what's also going to come down is the mental.
Mhm.
Well, what's going to happen there? And eventually it's like, oh my gosh, I got to sit here and do something for my partner. They're pulling away from me. And again, I'm talking from firsthand experience here. Okay. I got to be a better this. I got to be a better that. I got to work harder. I got to do whatever. That's anxiety. Okay.
Mhm.
There's that anxiety. Then you're walking on eggshells. How many times do you hear people, oh my God, I go home and I walk on eggshells,
Yeah.
right? Because we don't have that common vision. We're getting out here like this. So now that we're walking on eggshell, that's anxiety. But if this goes on for years, see, years, that's where hopelessness comes in, depression comes in. Oh my gosh. And I always like to challenge my clients. It's like I ask this question, hey, guess what? This is your marriage, this is your relationship, and that's till death do you part. How does that feel?
Like
It's
a
like,
death
holy,
sentence.
exactly. Exactly.
Well,
So
and in all of that, well, first of all, let's just go back and saying we're not totally discounting any kind of pharmaceuticals,
No,
that when
no, no,
they're
no.
warranted, we leave
Yes.
that up. But what we're saying is that sometimes it's just pharmaceutical and the other legs of the chair, so to speak, are not being tended to.
Yes.
And if you never tend to those legs,
Yeah.
you'll never get off the pharmaceuticals.
Right.
And sometimes after a while, pharmaceuticals don't even really help. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So those are the things that we're talking about. But going back to, you say, well, why don't you just pull yourself out of it? But then it really comes down to self-worth. This strange belief that I'm not worth being
Right.
happy. I'm not worthy
Right.
of happiness. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy, we have, and it's usually a conversation and stories we're making up in our own head, right?
Yes.
And we like to blame it on outside influences, right? It's
Absolutely.
so much easier to say, well, this person did this to me and this is why I'm this way. Um, and like you were saying, taking a situation and putting purpose to it, right? So
Absolutely.
something quote unquote bad happens,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I'm not saying that bad things don't happen, but a lot of times it's how we perceive it or how we go forward through it, right?
Amen. Right.
So, just as a little thing, okay? Recently, and that's why I was so discombobulated this morning, was because my basement flooded and my podcast studio is in my basement. So
Right.
I had to pull apart my entire podcast studio. And for those of you out there that are in the same boat as me, where we're not really technology savvy, um, when there's a bazillion cords everywhere and you now just had to unplug them and you're going, oh my God, where am I putting them back into? Right. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
so I quick had to tear apart everything in my basement, right? Move furniture and you're not doing it, because the guy's here to suck up the water and, get everything dried out. And he's helping me move this stuff. So you're not doing it in orderly fashion, right? So you've just torn apart your entire basement, which already had to be organized, right? So at first I was like, why is this happening to me? Like, seriously, this is the last thing I needed in my life right now. I cannot believe that, I just got home from this trip and I was so gung ho on I was going to get everything organized and right. And then this happens. And the way I looked at it was, yeah, it sucks. Okay. Because obviously I had to spend money to get it all fixed, but money's money. Um, but the way I looked at it was, I've been putting off this whole organization of the basement and getting things cleaned out, right? Whatever, for the longest time. And I could have come home even with the best intentions and still procrastinate on that. But now I have no choice, right? So I'm
Right.
like, you know what? The basement flooding was a blessing because now I'm going to get it done. I have to get it done. I don't have any choice, right?
Right.
So it's little shifts in mindset like that that you can do, throughout your day that is going to not put you down into that hole of depression, anxiety, and victimhood. And because you're in control of your reactions,
Right.
right?
Right. But and see, that's a great visual for life. I mean, why does it have to take a trauma or an event like that in order for you to get stuff done that you need to get done that you had to get done the whole time? So now you can also actually start beating yourself up because every time you come home, it's like, wow, what a great day. You have a tap on the shoulder saying, yeah, but the basement's not done. I'll get to it later. We all do it. We
Yeah.
all wear a mask. We all do it. And then something bad happens. And what's our first response? Crap. Why now? Holy moly. We start getting all pissed off, whatever. But then all of a sudden you got your other voice over here going, yeah, but Betsy or Steve, if you would have done this a long time ago, okay, fine. You have this little conversation between yourself. Why? Because it goes back to the one thing, which is that spiritual leg, which is called purpose. What's the purpose?
Mhm.
Back here, you said, I want to have a clean, organized basement, yada, yada, whatever. And now you're over here mad because you have those, I'm making this up, but maybe you have this stack of really family pictures,
Oh, I have so
a
many stacks
cardboard
of those.
box or something that's on the floor. And now they're all ruined. And then maybe you're over here going, well, they wouldn't be ruined if somebody would have, replaced the pump or done XYZ. And it's not my fault. It's not whatever. But man, I always say this, even in my sessions, I can be helping somebody, and I always say the mirror always drops down in the middle of the session, and I'm like, no, that's for them, not me. You know, we always have to look at ourselves because, like you said, we are in control of ourselves. The question, and let me go back. Let me go back to when I first worked with anybody. Okay. The very first, somebody comes in to see me, I'm saying, okay, my question is this: what do you want? I'm not out there all, trying to diagnose and try to put this and answer these questions to fit them into a diagnosis. My first question is, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Steve, forget it. I've stopped dreaming, 10, 20 years ago. There's no way. I said, no, just tell me what that looks like. And they go, oh, it's not going to matter. It's not going, it's not going to happen anyway. I said, but just tell me what you want. And they finally go, okay, I want this. I'm going, cool. How bad you want it? Because this is where we lose it. This is where procrastination comes in, and justification and victimhood and everything. We look out here and say, you do it for me, but there's three fingers pointing back saying, no, Steve, you got to do the work. Crap. That's where people lose it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to do the work, because those programs and all those things you're talking about, those narratives, have been so ingrained in our subconscious. Those are our survival skills. Those are our tools that we're going to pick up, positive or negative. They're going to be both positive tools and negative tools in our toolbox. And that's my program. That's the very first module. We jump into that and we start defining those things. I mean, you'll still pick it up, but I'm thinking, what are you picking up? And what is it tied back to?
Mm-hmm.
See, we jump into that in the very first module. Then we jump into the mental, the physical, the spiritual, social. We start building those four legs of the chair. So at the very last module, man, you've got a plan. We got this going, and here's what you need to implement on a daily basis. See, and I built this program based off of all my years of experience of my job is to put myself out of a job. Okay.
Yeah.
I've always said that. So now guess what? Person that gets this program and they learn all this stuff, they have it for life. Okay. They don't have to go back to counseling. Now, the cool part about it, I've also built it this way, is if somebody gets it and they're working through everything and they go, man, I'm just kind of stuck, then they can go find a counselor to help them with specific issues. You don't have to start from scratch, because trust me, there are therapists out there will sit there and they will say, hold on, we're not ready to talk about that issue yet. I still have to figure out your family tree, or I have to figure out this issue and that issue to kind of get the bigger picture of whatever. I'm going, no, I want help with this. No, we'll get to that 5 sessions later and another $2,000. You see, so it's
Yep.
all about that purpose of what do you want? That's going to really drive that desire to make those changes.
Yeah. Yeah. And to get into a new routine, a new mindset. And you're always going to fall back into old habits. You
Oh
are
yeah,
never, ever, 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 ever going to get rid of some of those old habits, right? So really what it's all about is, like I like to say, collapsing timelines, right? So it's really about taking that time that you spend in that bad frame of mind, okay, or that old mindset that doesn't serve you. That's a better way of saying it.
yeah,
So if you can collapse the time that you're in that old mindset and get back on track, that's what it's all about. And that's where the toolbox comes in. That's where
right,
you're, okay, pick up the tools and let's get to work. Now I know how to get myself out of this funk, and to realize that I'm in control. I'm the one, that's in charge of my life.
right.
Nobody else is in charge of my life. And so I'm not going to let either outside circumstances or outside people influence me.
Exactly. But you
So,
got to be crystal clear on that purpose and that vision, because, and I always say this too, when if we're right here and they come into my session, I'm always over here, bam, the very first session, I'm already getting up here in this new season. I'm already looking up here what they could be. They're over going, I can't even get my head around this, Steve, let alone that. I said, don't worry, I can get you there if you do the work. You see, so when they start coming up here, I'll always say this: you got to be careful, because the people closest to you may not want this new you. They want the old you, and they're going to do whatever they can, consciously or subconsciously, to get you back down there. Because when, I don't know if they know, my kids love me, I'm going, yeah, but when they sit here and going, I want ice cream for supper, and you always gave it to them down there, but now you know it's not a healthy thing, so you're not going to do it. Which mom do you think they want, this one or this one?
yeah.
Right?
Well,
So we have to be very careful about, how do we verbalize our vision to the closest people around us to get them, because another thing you're talking about here too is community. One thing I have found getting into this online business and online world, I never knew how much I needed community. Heck, we met where? See, and now we're in community, we're buddies. I mean, we just click. I never would have met you any other way,
Mhm.
more than likely, right?
Yeah.
But now here we are in community together. And it's so much easier when we align ourselves with other people, and then I can put purpose to it. There's a spiritual again, because if I'm solid, I can help bring people around me up,
Yeah.
so that one's closest to me can cut, even though they may fight it, whatever. No, if I'm solid and who I am, and I got a solid chair like this, then I can put down healthy boundaries, healthy, expectations and stuff on my kids or whatever. Yeah, they may fight it, but what kid's not going to fight it? Man, I fought it when I was growing up. What do you mean I
Yeah.
got to come in at 10 o'clock? How about 11? I
Ex
mean, that's normal, right?
exactly. Well, and I've always said that children need guidance and they
Totally.
love boundaries.
Totally.
They they don't say that they do, right? They're gonna
Right.
fight on it.
Right.
But, you know, if you're gonna find a secure kid that knows where the boundaries are, right? The kids that don't have boundaries and are
Right.
just left willy-nilly to do whatever they want, and
Right.
they get to run the show,
Right.
that they are not equipped for that.
No.
So, do you have to be a dictator and, be hard on no, but you need to tell them where the boundaries are, and you need to
Right.
keep those boundaries because here's the thing, trust goes out the window
Yep.
when you let those boundaries blur,
Right.
because they do not know what your word is anymore, right? So, if you say, "This is the rule," but then you
Right.
constantly go back on it, right?
Right.
They can't trust you, and they want to trust you because they're little kids looking to find their way in this world.
Right.
And, I love it when, this whole, like, newfound parenting came out, probably when we were young parents, and it was all about, you know, letting kids find themselves and they get to define, how, their punishment goes or not having punishment and never my favorite was never say no.
Hmm.
Okay.
How's
Well,
that working?
yeah, if you can get the entire world to get on board with you, then yeah, that's
Right.
great, I
Right.
guess, maybe. But here's the thing, your kids are gonna go out into the real world someday and people are gonna tell them no. No, you don't get the job.
Right.
No, you can't, go 80 in a 35. No, there's a whole lot of no's in this world.
Right.
And so we need to serve our children by, you know, I guess playing that game, right? It's not a lawless society, so they shouldn't be
Right.
brought up in a lawless family, right?
Right. I mean, to me, it's a job as a parent is to prepare your kids for life. Okay. And they're not in this little living in this little protective bubble, you know. One thing I found with a lot of teens I've worked with, and I will piggyback off what you just said, Betsy, because you're absolutely right. Most teens I've worked with that kind of a mindset of I get to do what I want. I'm the, I run the home. I can do whatever. Down deep, everybody wants structure. They
Mhm.
want that structure. They can't say it, but they want it. Okay. They want that security that you're talking about. Because they're over here basically bluffing their way through life. Then, if they're not going to get that guidance from their parents or their safe place, they're going to go out there and they're going to find their community. And that's where people get into, bad situations, whatever. And then all that stuff just piles, which
Well,
again leads to anxiety and depression.
yeah,
The,
exactly.
the, the diagnosis.
Right. I mean, here's a simple example. I'm a grown ass adult, Steve.
Mhm.
If you just put me into the gym without a plan, a workout plan or a group to join or something like that, how hard do you think my workout's gonna be compared to if I wrote out my plan ahead of time, you
Right.
know, this is what I'm gonna do. I can't stop until I get to the bottom of this list. I do all these exercises, or I step into a class and
Right.
this is the structure of the class and this is what we're all doing together. Well, I'm not going to just, you know, 20 minutes in, go off
Right.
in the corner and just, start looking through my phone and drinking my water and letting everybody else exercise in front of me, right?
Right. Right.
But left to our own devices without structure,
Right.
we're not going to work out hard, you know,
Okay.
unless I'm really
Take it.
feeling it that day, you know.
Okay, but see, again, that's true. And once you get, I would say, once you get into the gym and working out, once you get past that initial, probably month, you
Hmm.
know, where your body's fighting it, your psyche, your all those programs are saying, "Don't go. This is much easier to Netflix, binge Netflix and eat pizza." Whatever the struggle is. Once you get past that, and your body starts reacting, and you're feeling all the benefits of it, the body actually craves exercise.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so when we're doing that, we're in the gym, we're having a great one, or even if we're having a sucky workout, at least we went, you see, because there's a deeper reason. Okay, it's the purpose behind it.
Hmm.
You and I are very similar. We talk about, we hit it off. Why we love adventure. Why you're going off all over hunting to all these, and me, I'm already training for the next dirt bike ride with my brothers and sons up in Colorado. I just got back from an adventure ride with my buddy, riding these big old adventure motorcycles up and over the mountains, and all that kind of stuff. Well, I set that purpose in January. Say, okay, I got these trips planned up. So now I got to get to the gym, because if I'm going to enjoy that adventure to the fullest, I got to do the work over here. Now, it's multifaceted. Yeah, I could have that goal up here that's going to keep me focused, or maybe put out another set or whatever. But afterwards, man, I feel amazing. Why? Because it affects every aspect of your life. One
And,
thing drops, these will drop. If this drops, this drops. If this drops, this. I mean, you see, they all will work together.
and we
Make
somehow,
sense?
I shouldn't say sometimes, very often, almost every day, have to go into discomfort or uncomfortable, right? That's the problem, is that people don't like stepping into the uncomfortable. They
Right.
like to stay in the comfortable, but yet then they complain that, they haven't progressed in their job, or their relationship hasn't gotten better, or they
Right.
haven't lost weight, or they haven't gotten in shape, right? But that's because they haven't done the uncomfortable.
Right.
So if
Right.
you want a better relationship, you have to do the work. You have to have the hard conversations,
Right.
right? Um, so everything in your life, you have to step into the uncomfortable to make progress, to get. Now, it's funny how when you do the work and you find a new way of being, right?
Hmm.
Because you found your purpose, because you're living in your vision, everything actually gets easier when you're living in that new being. It's when you go back to the old being, you let yourself slip back into those old ways or slip back into that old
Right.
mindset, that things are difficult, right? When you're forcing things. So it all comes back to how. So first, like you're talking, you help people find, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you help them find what is going to be their new way of being through their
Hmm.
vision, through their purpose. Okay. What
Hmm.
do you, like you said, what do you want up here?
Right.
Okay. And then what are the steps to get there? What are the mindset shifts and habit shifts and discipline shifts and everything along
Right.
the way that need to happen for you to get up here, right?
Right.
And once you start, well, like you said, realizing what are your blocks, right? What are the tools, the bad tools, that
Right.
toolbox that we need to close and put aside, right? So is it procrastination? Is it I run when things get difficult?
Sure.
Is it I don't believe in myself? All these things. So whatever those bad tools, those bad mindsets are that
Hmm.
you go back to, because believe it or not, that's your comfort zone. As
Absolutely.
dumb
That's your
as dumb
normal.
as yep, as dumb as it sounds, because 'cause you're like, "Well, why would that be?" F uh, anger can be a comfort zone for some people, right?
Sure.
So they have to learn how to not live in anger, and things like that. So once you identify those things, right, then you can start to build on that, okay?
Right.
So how do we start believing in ourselves? Why do we procrastinate? If we get to the bottom of why we're really procrastinating,
Okay.
and you'll surprise yourself when you really
Right.
start digging into it, when you really start being true to yourself and really real with yourself, you'll figure out why you're procrastinating.
Absolutely.
And those are the things that I think, right, that you help people with,
Yeah.
And so it's step
Simple.
by step. So it's
Yeah,
not as daunting as it seems, right? I
not at
mean,
all. I can make this very simple. I mean, really, it's really kind of simple if we look at it. If we just write, and that's again, my program's not based off all this clinical stuff. It's just pretty straightforward, simple stuff. Because here's the deal. When somebody comes to me and they open up and build that trust and rapport very quickly, because man, I'm an open book. You know, very first session with somebody new, I'm sitting there going, ask me what you want. They're going, really? And I go, oh yeah. And so I'll just start boom, 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 boom. Because why? I want them to open up with me. So I got to open up with them first. Okay. And they'll say things like, wow, I've never had a therapist like you. No therapist ever opened up like this. I'm going, or my other favorite one is they will say, I've learned more in 1 or 2 sessions I've learned in 3 or 4 years of therapy over here. And I'm
mhm.
going, well, it doesn't have to be that much work. I mean, I had people getting mad at me. Why didn't somebody tell me this before? You know, I don't know. But it's very simple. If we look at that one question of what do you want, and they put it up here. So whenever they start slipping into procrastination, they start slipping back into those old tools. I'll sit there and say, well, I thought you wanted that. Shut up, Steve. I'm going, they're going, crap, you're right. I did. They need that somebody sit there and go, you want to go here? I'm taking you here. Now try this one instead. Try this tool instead. Or let's talk about that tool of procrastination or fear or doubt or worry. Because listen, every time you go to a new season, I don't care what it is. I can challenge anybody on this. Anybody. When you go to a new season, you're going to be challenged by 3 things: doubt, worry, and fear. Every single time. And I can say, yeah, I don't know about that, Steve. I say, okay, think about this. When I first had a kid, my very first kid, I can't wait. This is going to be awesome. Holy crap. Steve, are you going to be a good father? I don't know. I have some doubts. Aren't you a little worried? Yeah, I'll probably screw him up if I don't do X, Y, Z with him. You know, I might screw him up for life. So now my fear is, oh my God, I'm going to be a sucky dad. And if I do X, Y, Z, I might mess him up for life. So all of a sudden, boom. So I go back down and I look for those tools that I was given by my family, my parents. Okay, some good, some not so good. And that's what the program talks about. It talks about, you look at those things and say, what are the good things? I always challenge people. You take the good from your parents and leave the bad.
Mhm.
Oh, see, my parents are, and I'll go, hey, Caitlin Matthew Bailey, take the good from your mom and I and leave the bad.
And I
See,
like
I'm
to
not a
use the
perfect parent.
and I'm not criticizing you for the words good and bad, but I really like what serves you, what serves your vision, what serves your purpose, right? All right, a little bit of a
Okay.
technical difficulty there, but we're here.
Wow. You know, and that's the funny part about you and I being on this with tech issues. It's like 2 people who don't know tech, right? Um, so what I was saying before, how easy this can be is when we go to a new season, okay? When we talk about the purpose, we talk about the direction and some of that, you know, procrastination or some of those old tools that people slip back into. It's because they want this up here, but they don't know how to do it. Okay. Because you're actually saying you need to build this house, but you don't get a hammer, you don't get a drill, you don't get you can have this rock and this piece of wood or something like that. Well, those tools don't work up here. So we go to the spiritual leg, and I will say this. I said, now ask yourself this question. When have you ever been here before? Well, they'll look at me and they'll go, gee, Steve, that's a stupid question. It's like, never. I'm going, that's the right answer. So if you've never been there before, how do you know what to do? Well, I don't. That's the other right question. So wouldn't it behoove you to learn some new tools to get up here? So now we go back to the original first module, which is our tools on our toolbox that we look at. And I said, now, why are you picking up that old tool from your past? Why are you picking that up? Is that going to work up here? Well, no, then put it back down and let's get a new tool. Just like we started off this whole thing, we talked about, you know, mental health, overcoming depression or anxiety, and using the physical leg of the chair, you see, rather than the old tools or medication. Because there's a statistic I really like. They've even upped it since I first heard about it. But if you do this one thing, you can decrease depressive and anxiety symptoms by from 43 to 60% just doing this one thing. And they're going, well, gee, does that sound like a pretty good return? Yeah, I'll do it. All it is going for a walk 15 to 20 minutes a day, 4 or 5 times a week. That's it. No
Mhm.
counseling, no medication, just that one thing in the physical leg will reduce those symptoms.
Yeah.
Here we go again. What are the tools that they have? That wasn't modeled to them. No, what I do when I'm stressed is I overeat, blah, 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 boom. So anyway, so we go up here and we give ourselves, here we go, the spiritual, we give ourselves grace. We give ourselves forgiveness because we don't know what we're doing. We are going to make mistakes. We give ourselves permission to make mistakes because that's how we learn. I'll always tell folks, it's like I learn more from my bad mistakes than my good things. Because right. So anyway, so once we establish that right off the bat, that you will make mistakes, but we're going to put purpose behind it because it's moving you up. Even making a decision that's going to be wrong is still going to move you up, and you're not picking up that. So now where's the self-esteem? We start feeling good about ourselves. Hey, Steve, guess what? I started to freak out on XYZ. So I thought I'd Netflix, or I thought I'd go drinking. I thought I'd do drugs. I thought I'd go to pornography, whatever, but I didn't. First off, I went for a run, I went for a walk or whatever. And I pulled out my journal where I've written out my purpose, my directions. And I looked at my tools in my toolbox and I realized that, holy crap, I was picking up those old tools again. But here's the other cool thing, Steve. I actually realized there was another tool I didn't get at the very first. And now I see we're putting purpose. The further up we go, the more we're going to peel away that onion of ourselves, and like you said, those tools don't go away. They're in your toolbox. Those negative tools are in there. We just have a choice to pick them up or not.
Yeah.
Another thing that people do, and like you said earlier, you said getting that victim, and they point the finger at, well, my dad and my parents did this. They screwed me up for life. I'm going, well, they did the best they could with what they had. How do you take the good from them and leave the bad, like we talked earlier? Or I'll sit there and going, how do you forgive them? I ain't never forgiven them,
Mhm.
Steve. I'm going, oh, so you want to use that same kind of standard for your kids as when you screw? Are you a perfect parent? Well, no. I said, you want your kids to do the same thing to you and hold you accountable for all your mistakes? Well, no, I hope not. Oh, you see, boom. So
Right.
when we start
Right.
we get that purpose, we get that, and we know it's going to take work. We know it's going to be hard, but nobody else is going to do the work except us. But then it's like you're saying, all those negative tools down there, all those traumas, and I could go into multiple examples, but all those traumas, we put purpose to those traumas.
Mhm.
See, anytime anybody comes up, I don't care what it is, I'm going to take it and we're going to talk it through and we're going to put purpose to it. And
Yeah.
once you put purpose to a trauma, wow, how's that going to hold you back? No, it's going to propel you forward. Okay. Again, that's why I built this program. It's fast. Okay. It's going to take it takes work from the individual, but it'll go fast. It'll go as fast as you want it to go. See?
Yeah. And so how many people do you have saying, I don't either they say, "I don't know what I want. How do I figure that out?" 'Cause I
Mhm.
get that a lot, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know what I want. I don't know what my vision is. I don't know my purpose,
Yeah.
right? How do I do that? Or the people that when you ask them, "What do you want?" and they are not answering in their true authentic self, right?
Hmm.
And they keep giving you fluff answers that come from what either family or society or whatever has taught them that they should want, right?
Right. Right.
And when you keep asking the question over and over and over again, or building on everything they say and making them get more in depth, you find out like, oh, wait a minute, we finally like, do you have that experience with people where they finally say, you know, this is what I want, and you're like, finally, that's
Yep.
you. That's what you want,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. But that also just shows how deep the program is and how strong it's running. Okay. Even in that situation where you're giving that person permission to come up here and still remember, like they said at Insight, those programs fight to stay alive.
Mhm.
They don't want you up here. They want you down here. See, and it's been so ingrained since you're a little kid,
Mhm.
since you're 4, 5,
Don't
6, 7.
dream. Be
Exactly. Exactly.
practical. Make money.
Exactly.
Do
You
something that's safe.
Right, exactly. And see, from your relationships to your work, which is your social life slash work. See, same thing. oh, I got to work for 40 years, 40, no, actually it's more than that now, 50 years. And then I can retire and live my dream life. If you're not dead, you know,
Yeah.
how many people I've worked with over the years, they retire, then they die.
Or they retire and their body's starting to give out because they haven't
Yes,
taken care of themselves. So they really can't do the things that they dreamt of doing, right?
exactly. Exactly.
Ignite
See,
your life now, for God's sake.
exactly.
Enough. Why are we living
Exactly.
in mediocrity? Why are we, playing small and giving up on ourselves and giving up on our life? That's not why we were put on this earth. We were put on this
Absolutely.
earth to live life to the fullest.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's my answer to that question of how do you get people to look up here, even though, and it will, some people, it will take time. I mean, not everybody's going to just turn the light switch on and off to sit there and go, oh, I can never do this. Oh, I can do this. You know, it's going to be like a fader, like a dimmer switch. You know, nobody does this. Everybody does this
Mhm.
until they start coming up here like this and they start getting to this new season. And sadly, here's from my professional my professional experience, when I get somebody from down here to up here fairly quick, I can say, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 sessions, bam, I'll get somebody up here. Okay. That's when people leave. Thank you so much. I'm better than I've ever been. Wow. Thank you, Steve. I'm going, we're not done yet.
I'm
If I use
cured.
if I use my cup example, I could sit here and go, they were down here. That's where depression, anxiety, symptoms, diagnosis, medications, suicidal thoughts, blah, 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 blah. It's because your cup's over here, empty. I'll put it like this way, but they turn it around and they're sitting here like this. Everybody shows, everybody puts a mask on. Everybody at one time or another will
Mhm.
put a mask on. I'm okay. I can sit there and go, yeah, you look good, but let me look behind you. No, I'm fine. You see, we put that mask on because we don't want to see, we want to let people see how vulnerable, what we're struggling with. Okay. But man, once we turn that, once we, what I call plug in the holes and we start filling that cup up and they start getting up here, they're going, I'm an overflow, Steve. See ya. I'm going, no, you're only halfway. No, I'm not. I've never had this kind of a marriage before. I've never had this kind of health before. I've never had this kind of relationship with my kids before. This is awesome. I mean, don't see if you don't understand my whole life. I've lived, my whole, exactly. You're at halfway full. What does overflow look like? And sometimes it takes, that's good. They have to walk that out for a while. And then generally, those kind of folks, they'll be back in 6 months.
Yeah.
They'll say, how did you know? Or how did you know that I was going to fall? How did you know it slipped back? How did you know? I'm going,
Because
well,
we all do.
yeah, but you're only halfway.
Yeah.
See, you're only halfway. You're not up here at overflow. But again, no harm, no foul, no shame. I never do that. It's like, what did you learn from that?
Mhm.
See, because you did develop some positive skills. And most of the time, people will get complacent, will get, me included. I will get lazy. I will get complacent. I will get procrastinating in this new season. And then guess what? I start leveling off. And then
Yep.
deep down, here it is. Steve, is that your goal? Well, no, but no, gosh, I got to push through again. Geez, why does it have to always be so much work? Well, that's life. That's, if I don't want to settle, see,
Right.
but I think from this perspective, like you're saying before, I have a purpose. You have a purpose. Our hearts are to help others. I'm not going to sit here and change everybody's mind, but if I can sit there and make an influence on this many people versus this many people in the world, that man, if I can just touch this many, amen.
Right.
And that's what drives me. That's what drives you.
Yeah.
See,
Absolutely.
because nobody knows really what I've been through. Just like I don't really know what that person been through and that person. Thing is, we all share a story. We can
Mhm.
learn from each other. We can encourage each other, and that's the value of community, which is that social leg. You have community. You're not alone. Purpose. Hey, I think you can do that. Hey, you having a hard time, Steve? Let's go. My boys. That's why we work out together. We do all kinds of stuff. Hey, Dad, let's go work out. Oh, fine. Maybe it's a day I don't want to, or vice versa. Hey, let's go, guys. Oh, geez, I don't feel like it. Come on. Okay. See, that's where community comes in. Then guess what? We're having fun. We're laughing. We're connecting. So there's that emotional connection. There's that endorphin rush. There's those dopamine receptor. Everything's just going firing. So you go to the gym like this, potential, you walk out like this. All 4 legs are hit.
And here's something too that I think is really important to keep sight of is now what you were kind of talking community, which can also sometimes be referred to as accountability buddies,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love accountability buddies, but really at the heart of it, you need to be able to rely on yourself. Your biggest accountability buddy should be yourself.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that you have to go it alone.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you always have to be there in being your own accountability buddy, right? But you have to have that at the base so that when times get tough and everybody else has given up and they're not there to support you, whatever the situation is, you need to be your own accountability buddy. You know,
Right.
like every once in a while, I will sometimes it's my fault because they've told me they're not going to be there and I forget. And I show up at the park where we work out and I'm the, or, at the community center, whatever it is, and I'm the only person. Now, because they're not there to work out with me, I could pack everything up and go home and have another cup of coffee on the couch, right? But
Right.
that's when I need to dig deep and
Right.
I need to say, I can do this on my own.
Exactly.
And why am I gonna do it on my own, really? And
Right.
it's really the why that it really
Right.
comes down to. And when I do that workout from start to finish by myself, that's when I really, really feel good about myself because 'cause I'm like,
Sure.
"You know what? Today I
You
did it
did
all
it.
on my own."
There you
You
go.
know? But I
There you
but
go.
you but you don't have to do it every day on your own. That's the other thing is
Right.
that we really need to know that that community really serves us. And so I saw this thing the other day and it was said in a negative way, but I thought it could also be turned into the positive, which is vulnerability creates opportunity. And what they were saying was it was a bad guy, right, in a movie. And he was saying, basically, if you do this, 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 and this, and you make him vulnerable, vulnerability creates opportunity, right, for the bad guy to come in and get what he
Sure.
wants, right? But when you look at it from the other perspective, vulnerability in ourselves, and you could speak to this being a man because being a man, being vulnerable is very difficult.
Right.
Um, I think it's misunderstood a lot of times, but whenever you're vulnerable, whether with yourself or with others, it creates opportunity for growth. And we need to look into that and really accept it, right? And realize how powerful it is. So, answer me this question because I've asked this before. What does male vulnerability mean to you?
Gosh, that's good. Uh, I guess the first thing I think about when I think about that vulnerability, perpetuates opportunity. Um, that's actually telling myself that I don't have to have it all together. I'm not the man. I can be weak. I don't have to know it all. And that's just that we talk about our roles. I look back on my marriage, I look back on my raising kids and all those things I took upon myself, and then the business and helping my clients and blah, blah, blah. I put myself on not on a pedestal, but I had this expectation of myself because I had to do it. All these people are relying on me. Um, so there's that level of vulnerability to sit there and saying, well, I'll just say it straight up. I wore a mask for years because I had to show everybody I was the strong one when actually you come down here and I'm down like this because I didn't have anybody, but I would just say being vulnerable is allowing yourself to um, cry if you need to, ask for help. That's tough for guys to ask for help because that hammers the ego. You
Mhm.
can sit there and say, hey, could you help me do this? And you're going, oh my God, you don't have a tool belt and can't do this. Oh my gosh, what kind of a wuss are you? I mean, that's where our brains go. We're always in this competition thing, type of thing where I've got to be the man, whatever the man is. So it's that level of vulnerability to allow yourself to get outside of that ego and to really, if you're married with your partner, really listen to that partner. What do you want from me? And I guarantee you, most women I've talked to want that in a man. They want their man to be sensitive, caring, listening, not sitting here going, I'll use a prop here. Oh man, that's a badass truck. What was that, honey? Yeah. Hang on a second. Let me just hang on. Let me respond to this and I'll listen to you. That kind of stuff,
Mhm.
they want somebody who's going to be there for them, listen to them. So vulnerability is again, I look at this, the four legs of the chair. Can I show anybody that I'm weak or I don't have a purpose or I'm whatever? Because if I'm sitting here trying to mask this, I already know my emotional is going to drop. Why do
Eh,
why do guys need their bro time? And again, I love bro time. I need bro time. But or hey, let's go out and let's go drinking. Let's go out and do this. Let's go out to a titty bar or whatever. I'm going. You see why?
Right. Would you agree that you being vulnerable, whether it's in a relationship with a woman or whether it's in a relationship with a guy friend of yours, creates trust and connection?
Totally.
Because the way I look at it is if you were my partner and I could tell that something was bothering you and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" "I'm fine." "Really? Because you seem just a little out of sorts today." "No, I'm fine."
Yep.
"Okay,
Put the
well,
mask on. Put the mask on.
yeah, did I do something right?" Whatever. And now, mind you, it might not be anything, but, sometimes you figure out later that it really was something, okay? And, or maybe, there's some kind of underlying, how do I wanna put this? Um, fear that they have or weakness that they have, or something like that. Not weakness is a terrible word, but you know what I mean,
Fear of
right?
rejection.
Perceived weakness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they don't share it with you. To me, that means you don't trust me enough to know that I love you no matter what. And actually, when you share your vulnerability with me, that's going to strengthen our connection and my love and everything else. That building that wall does not do anybody any good. And it doesn't mean you don't have to cry like a baby.
Right.
That's not what I'm looking for. I just want you to be really true and honest with me about what your emotions are. Emotions aren't weakness,
Right.
right? I just want to know what's going on with you.
Right.
Share that with me. And that's the same thing with your guy friends. If you keep that connection with your guy friends always at that, "Hey bro, how's it going? Let's go get a beer and oh my
Yeah.
god,
Yeah.
you see what the Broncos did in that last game?" If that's
Exactly.
all you ever talk about and you
Right.
never say like, "Hey, what's going on in your life?
Right.
Is everything okay in your marriage? How's your job? Oh, wasn't your mom sick? How's that going?" If you never get to that level of vulnerability with your guy friends, you're never going to strengthen that friendship or that connection either, or the trust, right?
Totally.
And
Yeah.
then who can you go to, or they don't even feel like they can come to you in times of need because you've never shown that vulnerability. So they think, "Oh God, I really can't open up to him."
Right. Absolutely. And see, I think in relationships as well, you look at that and there's all those little things that says, man, we were so close, but then all of a sudden this starts happening. Kids happen, mortgages happens, life happens, whatever, and how we're dealing with them. If we don't have those positive tools, and you look at that, maybe that person's the wife is a product of divorce, and you're a product of abuse over here, whatever. So those tools, you see, and they start using those tools that they were given. And wow, that at one time or another, the anger, the lack of trust, or whatever that is, it starts doing this number. See, so when we start talking about when I hear couples coming in here and saying, "Well, we don't talk anymore," I'm going on, okay. My first question I ask everybody in couples therapy, I say, okay, here's your first homework in the very first session. I said, I want you to go home, dude, and write out what a healthy relationship / marriage looks like. And I want you to do the same, but do not share it with each other until you come into here, and we'll share it in here together. See, so we start looking at, and that quickly we can see where we're connecting here, but we're not connecting here.
Right.
Okay. But if you don't do that on occasion, the problem is we start doing this number, and then I call that the safety net for your kids. Because the further you guys get apart, the kids are walking on what I call the tightrope of life. They're walking on the tightrope, and they're gonna have issues. They're gonna have somebody bully them. I flunked a test, or somebody called me a booger head, whatever, and they fall off. Mom, Dad, catch me! Ow! Because
Yeah.
mom and dad aren't really connected.
No, I
So
know. Well, I actually discovered that about myself as to, why I lone wolf it so much. And I also have It's not just me making this discovery. I've been told by many people I have a lot of male energy, which is why I can talk to vulnerability so much, because I understand what it means to not be vulnerable. I'm
Yeah.
the queen of it. But I felt growing up, my parents were in a terrible relationship and fighting all the time, and it was stressful. And I had older sisters that were going through issues. And so, like you said, my safety net was completely bottomless, right?
Right.
There was no connection and tight weave in that safety net. And so because of that, I always felt like I had to figure stuff out on my own,
Right.
right? If I'm
Right.
having an emotional crisis, I've got to figure it out.
Right.
Whatever it was, I didn't feel like I could go to the adults in my life and ask
Right.
for help, because I thought I can't pile on, or they can't handle, my
Right.
issues right now because they've got so much on their plate.
And they broke your
And
trust. How many times have you hit the cement? Or there's no, we'll catch you, but you catch dad a little bit and you still hit, you kind of broke the fall. Mom kind of broke the fall. And other times you hit, finally you're up there looking and go, hey mom, hey dad, never mind. I'll figure this out for myself. Okay. What do guys want? What is friendship? What is peer pressure? Hey, somebody wants me to try alcohol or vape or blah, blah, blah. But I can't talk to me. So I'll figure this out myself. My friends are doing it, so I'll do it, blah, blah. That just
I want to be
perpetuates.
accepted. Yeah.
Exactly. But I can flip this. See, I'll make you an example here. If you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, my parents weren't there, I couldn't trust them, blah, blah, blah. You could actually be the victim. But see, on the flip side, you're over here going, no, I'm going to take that gift that I learned. Now, did that making all the decisions yourself? Were there some negative things? Yeah, but look where you are today because of that. So now we flip that. Instead of being, geez, mom and dad, thanks a lot. No, we're saying, hey, mom, dad, thanks a lot. It's just a shift, like you're saying earlier. It's a shift in the mindset and the shift in how we see things. We can be the victim, or we can thank them for the gift that they gave us of self, reliance.
Well, yeah, self-reliance, independence. And
Exactly.
it was funny
Boldness,
because
confidence.
it took me years and years and years to actually not thank them. Right?
Right.
Because all my life, I always said if I didn't grow up in the screwed up family that I did, I wouldn't be as independent, I wouldn't be as
See,
confident, I wouldn't be, right?
there you
But
go.
then when I really started digging into it, it also was at the root of some of my issues, that like how I was getting blocked was also from that, right? So because I didn't totally process it, I I had taken the good out of it, right? But I
Hmm.
hadn't processed the bad.
Right.
And the bad was sitting underneath quiet, and I didn't
Right.
know.
Right.
And so once I faced that head on, then I could work through it. Then I
There
could
you
go
go.
through it and really say thank you, right? So for me it was a quiet thank you, and now it's like, oh, thank you.
There you go.
Yes. Now
There you
it's,
go.
100%. Yeah.
And
Yep.
and I think that's a great segue. Again, what I've been saying about the four legs of the chair and how I built the program. You could take that one experience and you could have worked the tools in the toolbox. Okay. You would have identified those things from your parents, from your past, from your coaches, from your friends, blah, 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 all those tools, and all these questions that go along with the workbook. Then you go in the mental. Well, how does that affect you emotionally? Depressed, anger, upset, guarded, aloof, whatever. Um, Physically had that. No, it might have turned you into an athlete because you're, okay, that's a positive thing, but you're over here going, but down deep, it affects me. It's yeah, I take the positive, I still have those negatives, because if I would have been in this relation, this family, whatever. So you put purpose behind it. You see, now you're looking at it, and in the program, I talk about the power of purpose, the power of sacrifice, the power of giving, the power of giving, the power of, oh gosh, there's a number of them, but there are all these things that you apply to those specific tools and the specific memories. And I'm sitting there and going, you take that those powers, and you apply it to your parents. Grace, sacrifice, it will challenge you. It pulls you out to look at
Yep.
those negative things and say, I got to forgive them. Because I'll say this with any parent, it could be the most worst parent. Again, I'm not trying to minimize anybody's feelings here, but it could be the worst parent with the worst parenting skills and did the worst things. But I'm sitting there going, Did they do the best they could with what they had? Because I can almost guarantee you, and I do this with my clients a lot of times when I sit there and going, yeah, but they abused me and they did this, they did this. I'm saying, well, tell me about your grandparents.
Yeah,
And all of a sudden they'll
exactly.
tell me about their grandparents. Oh, Steve, you wouldn't believe my grandparents. They're even worse than my parents. Or I'm going,
Exactly. It's generational
see?
trauma.
And once they look at that, now, and then here's where I get them. I'll get everybody with this. I said, so are you passing those on to your kids? Hell no, Steve. F no. I'm going, you just learned an amazing lesson, didn't you? You're giving their kids, they're going, oh my God, I've never seen it that way before.
Mm-hmm.
Quick story if we have time.
Yeah.
I worked with this one gal. She had been abused, sexually abused by her dad, uncles, brothers, or stepbrothers, whatever, for years. Years. And I think and until she was like 14. So she started therapy, and she had been in therapy since she was 14 years old. And now now fast forward like 10, 15 years, I forgot how old she was when she came to see me, but probably in her lower 30s, but had like 3 kids, like a baby and a 2-year-old and like a 6-year-old, something like that. And she's over here struggling in her relationship with her husband. It's good, but it's not because of this abuse. And, she was talking about the abuse, and this was our second session, I think. And finally, I just looked at her after she told me all this stuff. I'm going, okay. And she's going, I've been in therapy, blah, there's all these bad things. I said, okay. I just looked at her and I said, you know what? You're an amazing mother. And she just looked at me. She's like, what do you mean I'm an amazing mother? How can you say that? I said, I already know you're going to be an amazing mother, because I said, how old's your daughter again? She goes, 6. I go, you know what? When your kid is 7, which I think that's like when her abuse started or something like that. I said, you know what? If your kid wants to go over to somebody's house, you're gonna know who that parent is. You're gonna know who the people are. You're gonna teach your kid good touch, bad touch, and you're gonna sit here and say, no. And your kid's gonna sit there and go, come on, mom, it's a party. All my friends are gonna be there. Don't take this opportunity away from me. I'm going, nope. And they say, I don't love you. I don't like you. You're mean. I'm going, yep. Because what are you doing? You're taking that negative and you're going to make sure your kids, and this is where I got her. I said, you're going to make sure your kids never go through what you went through. Correct?
Yeah.
And she goes, well, yeah. And I have another module in my spirituals called Taking the Bullet for Your Kids. I said, would you take a bullet for your kids? Every parent says yes. Okay. I said, well, long story short, with that whole teaching is, if we put purpose to it, to that level, that's major purpose. If I'm sitting there going, I love my kids, I will take the bullet for them. When I went through that whole thing for myself, when I got to the point where I'm sitting there going, Steve, would you take a bullet? In a heartbeat? I'm saying, God, in a heartbeat, I'd do that. And it was like this. I got this revelation. It's like, would I go through all the shit that I went through in my marriage, losing everything, living out of a building, getting all the debt. I had less than nothing. I had debt, and I'm sitting there being the victim. Poor Steve. Oh my gosh. Why? It's not fair. All that crap, right? But when I did that, I'm sitting here going, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. So my kids wouldn't have to go through it. All of a sudden, I'm looking at my hand going, I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Talk about freedom. Talk about forgiveness for my ex and that whole stuff. You don't know how many times I've thanked her. I wouldn't be talking to you right now if she wouldn't have done what she did. So going back to this girl, I that's what I said to her. I said, now, I know your kids will never be sexually abused because you have skills and you have wisdom and you have ways to teach your kids that I don't know, only you know.
Yeah.
And I just asked her straight up. I said, now, would you go through all that abuse against you? Kids would never have to. Betsy, she's going, she just sat back. She's like, holy crap. She goes, I do it in a heartbeat. I'm going, you do it in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
This is a girl who's been in therapy since she was 14 up until whatever age. Second or third, maybe, I think we may have had 4 sessions total. That's it. Because we jumped to the heart of it and we put purpose to that. No matter how bad that was in her past, we still put purpose to it. And she can take it to make her a better parent, a better relationship with her husband, better life for her kids. And she stopped something. Now that's like the most purpose that she could. I've seen her about town every day. And she just comes up and gives you a big hug, and she goes, "Hey, how you doing? This is great, great." You know, you just watching her be happy. It's just, that's why I'm here. You know,
Right. Yeah.
that's why
Well,
you're
and
here.
yeah, and you know, I love that, let's get to the heart of it. Let's do it quickly. It's not always going to be as quick as they may want it, right? But it's
Right.
way quicker than traditional talk therapy. But there's always going to be maintenance of some sort.
Totally.
And that's what, so for anybody listening going, well, yeah, that sounds great, but you just also said that everybody falls back into their old habits. Yeah. And sometimes you need maintenance. Sometimes
Absolutely.
you need to go back and look at the program again, or open up,
Totally.
your journal, or
Totally.
whatever it is, give you a phone call, all those great things that you offer. So yeah, it's never 100% done. We're always evolving, we're always
Absolutely.
working, but it's getting to that place where, like, again, like I said, it's that collapsing of that timeline that
Right.
you spend in the negative space, or this the time that you spent stalled becomes shorter and shorter,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because it's all about moving forward, even if it's in baby steps sometimes. Never stop moving forward.
Right.
Never stop looking forward. It's
Right.
when we get stalled and we look back, that then we're in trouble.
Right. So if again, thanks for bringing that up, because I think I've said this before. That's why I built the program. See, it's not a one and done, because guess what? Like you're saying, life is going to happen. The whole
Mhm.
thing is now when life happens and trauma happens and things happen, that's going to happen in life until the day we die. Things, good things and bad things are going to happen. But look, it's not piling up. We're not coming over here. We're going, oh God, oh God, oh God, I'm drowning. See, because we do this and we take all this crap out. We go, boom, we put it over here. We work it out in the program, ding, 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 ding. And now the water level's down here. And then when life starts happening again, guess what? Why? I always ask people, why we wait until it gets up to here to where we're drowning? Stop it now.
Mhm.
So if a life event happens, whatever, your first kid's moving out to college or something. I'm working with a couple right now. Their kids moving out to college, and now she's going, oh my gosh, I'm losing. Oh my gosh, she's going to do X, Y, Z. Oh my gosh, I'm going on. Time to jump back in
Mm.
with that one issue. It's not the
Right.
everything. You don't have to go back and go rehash all that stuff. There's that one issue. Okay, I'm already looking at her leg, and it's going down with anxiety and depression, because she's also grieving the loss of her kid leaving for the first time, for whatever there. So there's all these emotions here. Physically, she's not taking the vision's not clear, and it's affecting her relationship with her daughter, because she's trying to micromanage and helicopter an adult kid. I'm going, that ain't
You,
working. It's pushing her away.
you know what
You
always
know,
killed me about that? And I'm not discounting people's feelings on that, but when my first child went off to college, I couldn't have been more proud of him and of myself,
yeah,
right? Because
there
at
you go.
that point in time, that is what you're working toward as a parent,
Yes,
is to make your kid independent,
yes,
make them a good member of society, and put them out there. They're supposed to fly. You're supposed to, you know, push them out of the nest, so to speak, and let them fly. And while you'll miss them, you should be so proud of what the two of you have done, and so
right,
excited for what the future brings.
right,
And you're not never going to see them anymore, but you have to think, if I am so upset that I'm facing, anxiety and depression and things like that, that's, to me, is more of a selfish thing, right? And when you project that onto your child, yes, your child wants to know that they're going to be missed when they're gone. But when it gets to this point where, you know, they see you depressed, and you're crying every day, and you're calling them every 2 seconds,
right,
they feel guilty then,
right,
and they can't spread their wings and fly.
right,
So you have to find, like you said, you have to find that purpose in that
right,
situation, and you have to find the positivity in it to help them fly.
right.
Because when you sit there and wallow in your self-pity and you play the victim that your child is leaving, well, first of all, I say, why are you even playing the victim that your child's leaving? This should be a win. That goes in the win
Should be.
column, man.
should be.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
But if they've raised them with those unresolved trauma issues, beliefs, programs from their past, and all the things they screwed up with or they did wrong, whatever, and they've labeled themselves this way. This is, what about boom. I love my kids so much. I don't want them to have to go through what I went through. So I'm going to put the clamps down on them over here, which is only going to push them away more. You
Right.
see, and now when that kid, they have no control. See, when that kid moves in this new season, the parents have to go up here regardless they want to or not. What are you going to
Mm-hmm.
do? Make them flunk and come back and do the senior year again and again and again and again? No. No, your kid's going to say, peace out, I'm gone. And but that's my point. The point, they are so stuck with that fear, that doubt, that worry, whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got to control it. I've got to control it, because like you said, you're making it about yourself, not about
Mm-hmm.
your kid. And that's that selfish motive, which leads to division. It's going to put a wedge between you and your kid. Guarantee it.
Yeah. Why did you raise your child the way you raised them through everything from preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, all the things that you did along the way,
Right.
you should have been doing for this moment right now.
Right.
And usually that's what parents do, right? They make sure that, you got the best grades and that you joined, extracurricular activities so that it looked better on your college,
Yeah.
application and blah, 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 blah. And you did all these things, but now you don't want them to go. Now you know what I'm saying? So,
Sure.
so you had the vision and now you've lost it
Yeah.
because now the vision has become about you and not about them
Right.
in a
Right.
split
Well,
second.
absolutely. And so you could take that example, which is great. I always say your greatest gift is your greatest weakness. It's a positive thing over here, but when it comes over here, it becomes a negative. We could sit there and say, I want my kids to have good grade, athletics, whatever, because it's teaching them teamwork, hard work. I mean, all those things here. But then when the parents take it upon themselves, and you've seen this, where they're sitting there going, yeah, my kid's a star this, star this. Yeah, he plays baseball, basketball, and football in the summer camps, and he's going to be yeah, it's my kid, and they make it about themselves. Then it comes over here. Then the kid starts. I've counseled kids. That's the way the pressure they're under.
Too much pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden they miss one grounder, and the dad's going, "Oh my gosh, get in front of it! What the hell?" And they start yelling at him, and the kid's out here like this with his baseball glove like this. And the wife's over here going, oh God, he's doing it again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and because listen, I mean, that's making about him, not just him, but women do that too. But the thing is, we bring our stuff, our good things and our bad things. So if we are sure about because my question to anybody is, are we the best version of ourselves? For ourselves first, like you said first, we got to be accountable to us first. If I know I'm the best I know how, but I'm always moving forward. But if I'm the best version of myself, then don't you think I'm going to be hopefully a good partner for my partner, a good parent for my kids, a good counselor over here, a good friend over here, if I am doing the best I can. So there's that constant, again, it's not pressure. It's just my lifestyle. It's just my purpose. It's just my vision. I
Mm-hmm.
know what this takes for Steve to walk around like this. Anytime I start struggling here, this quick, I can sit there and go, oh shoot, why am I feeling down right now? Why am I feeling whatever? See, the mental goes down. Why am I? No, I'm working out and everything. And oh man, I'm in a new season.
Yeah.
Technology, like we're talking about here. It's like, well, that's a huge hit to my social, which is going to challenge my purpose, which is going to cause some maybe anxious or whatever, but if I don't do it, it's going to cause depression or self-esteem issues or whatever. So it's going to start affecting all this. So it's always going to push you. You can look at this real quick and just take a snapshot. I always tell folks in the first 15 minutes of any new session, I can have somebody like this. I know right where they're at.
Yeah.
You see, that quick. Why? Because I listened to them and go, boom, 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 boom. All right, you're feeling depressed because of beep, 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 beep. And they're going, wow, that makes sense. I'm going, well, yeah, it doesn't have to take a long time.
Yeah. Yep. And going back to the depression, anxiety that comes with a child leaving for a mom, I think it's like what somebody goes through when they get fired from a job.
Yeah.
Because that's been their job for so long,
Yeah.
and they've identified as that for so long, that it's like pulling the rug out from underneath them. And
Right.
so it's really, if you can prepare yourself in the correct manner, like you're saying, right? That you're being the best version of yourself that you can be, which means that you know who you are outside of the roles that you play in your life, right?
Right.
So outside of being a mom, outside of being a wife, outside of, all those things, you really need to come home to you
Right.
and what makes you the best version of you.
Right.
And then anything can happen in your life and you'll be able to stand up tall. Um,
Exactly.
there's a huge, issue with especially stay-at-home moms with loss of identity, that we only identify as the moms, right? And
Right.
and that's what we do. And yes, we identify as a wife. And if our relationship at the time that our children go off to college isn't strong with our partner, our entire identity and self-worth and happiness, etc., has been poured into this
Right.
child.
Right.
And so when that child leaves, again, it is that rug being pulled out from under you.
Right.
So I think that's really what we need to address and what we really need to look at when you're having a problem so big that you're falling apart when your child goes off to college.
Agreed. And it's, yeah, it even goes back to the question of what's it mean to be vulnerable as a man, you see. You're right. I mean, again, no offense to my ex, but I basically pulled dual role since the kids were about 12. I was like mom and dad, I
Mhm.
did it all, So yeah, it was kind of like a double whammy when my kids left. It's like, oh my gosh. So I definitely know what you're saying. But if we're in a relationship with our partner, I mean, you got to plan for those things. You see, because
Yep.
I get it when the kids are little and you don't have babysitters, the kids are sick. I mean, it's gonna take the relationship's gonna take a hit. We don't have date nights like we usually do, whatever. I mean, things look different. But if we could look at that early on and get that line of communication open early. Again, I'm looking for my own walk. See, I thought we were doing that. I thought we were on the same page. I thought, oh, we'll get there eventually. We're on the same page. We'll get there. And all of a sudden I realized we're out here like this, 25 years. It's like, man, we don't have a relationship. This is done. Oh my gosh. So I look back and I go, there's my role in it. There's her role in it. I'm going to learn from that. Whatever she
Mhm.
does, that's up to her. I'm going to learn from this, grow from this, and say, how can I help others not fall into what I did? I have to take ownership of my role in the relationship. My pride, my ego. Heck, I'm a counselor. I already know what the issues are. Let's work on it. No, I look back, I'm going, oh, ah, you know, I don't beat myself up over it. I've forgiven myself, just like we talk about in the spiritual, but I have to look at that and say, wow, but I can take that and say, hey, folks, try this, try this, try this, try this. See,
Mhm.
make
And
sense?
and and see, that's another thing that when we were talking before, I thought of and I wanted to talk about a little bit was that so many people look like perfect people, right? Like you're so disciplined, just looking at you, you're fit, you have it all together, you're well spoken, you're successful business, you know what I'm saying? But here's the thing, everybody has their thing. And so that's what vulnerability helps with. When you
Right.
look like an untouchable, perfect person, being vulnerable lets people in.
Amen.
And and it's not again, it's not, you don't have to break down in front of people and, be emotional and, regurgitate your entire sad ass story to everybody. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right?
But
You don't want to hear it again, Betsy? Come on. Come on, let me do it one more time.
oh, you've never told me a sad ass story, but no, we have been talking for a long time, so I'm
Yeah.
going to end this soon with the fact that we didn't talk about what we wanted to talk about today. I mean,
Well,
we
you can
talked
have me
about
back.
that's what I was gonna say. I said, "You're gonna come back because I wanna hear from people, um, if you would love to hear a man's perspective on divorce." I
Yeah.
don't I don't think that we talk about that enough.
Yeah.
That what men go through and, what their ego the ego hit that they have and all and I'm kind of putting words in your mouth at this point. It's just kind of my perspective, but that's why I'd love to talk to you about it.
Sure.
Just what does a man go through when he goes through divorce? Because I guarantee you there's a lot of similarities of what a woman goes through, but then there's probably a lot of differences that
Right.
people don't realize, and maybe men need to hear it too to know that it's okay, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
the next time we get together, which will be soon, um, and we will not spend so much time trying to get the technology fixed. Oh,
Right.
I mean, have we not had that joke between us since the moment we
Oh
met
man,
that
I just
it
expected it. I was ready
I
for it.
know. I didn't I just I tell you, it's always something. Gotta love
It's all
technology.
good.
But we have younger people that help us. That's why I
Yes.
have Daniel Anderson, my podcast producer of Automy. Oh my lord, I just took 2 words and put them
You almost
together.
had it. So close.
I know. I was just shortening it for you, Daniel. Audio Alchemy. No, wait, now I'm saying it backwards, aren't I?
Oh man.
I'm
We're gonna
kill
have to cut
All
all
right,
of
Daniel, just give it to me. Name of your company.
Audio Alchemy Productions,
Okay.
601-672-6591.
One more time. Audio Alchemy Productions.
There it is. 601-672-6591.
But wait, there's more. So yeah, so that's why I have Daniel. Without Daniel, this is just a shameless plug for Daniel right now. Totally not scripted. I just wanted to say that this whole podcast would not have been possible. He helped me set the whole thing up, and he helps me every week, sometimes more than once a week, as I need it. And he has been just a blessing, and I can't thank him enough, because this has been such a joy to do, as you know, Steve. Actually, we didn't even give that little bit of background, really. That Steve and I started a podcast of sorts. We called it a webinar, but then it really wasn't a webinar. So, but we used to get on and we used to chat like this. And it just was so hard to do it on a regular basis for us. We were both so busy going in 2 different directions, and it kind of fell apart. But I always told him that was, once we started doing that, that's really where I found my passion.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I love doing this. I love getting the word out, and, hoping to connect with people and have people just have that moment where they're like, wow, yeah, that clicks with me.
Right.
Or, yeah, wow, that's so great to hear that other people go through the same thing, and then there's help for that. Or I feel inspired by what they said today. I mean, that's really, I just want to get out there and inspire people and help them just really ignite their life. And, my whole thing is pushing past fear and self-doubt and really just
Right.
going out there and doing it. So that's my big thing. And I know that Steve aligns with that. That's obviously how we became friends. But that being said, since we're doing shameless plugs here, right behind Steve, if you're not watching video, it says "Stay strong, stay focused," and his website is staystrongstayfocused.com.
Mm-hmm.
And his name is Steve Nachtigal again. You can look in the show notes for all of his information. And on the website, is that the best? That's the best place to find
Yeah.
any of the
Yeah,
information.
if you're interested in learning more about my program right now is Overcoming Depression. That's where the deep dive into the 4 legs of the chair, tools in the toolbox. There's over 80 videos, action step workbooks, and then coaching that goes along with that, depending on what package. I'm about probably a month out of launching the Overcoming Anxiety program. And then I have like 3 other programs I want to build with my boys where they're helping me do this. So it's kind of a family thing. So yeah, it's really cool. We'd love to help in any way. Just reach out. And if you have any questions about that, I also do a free, like a 20-30 minute consultation. And when I say 20 minutes, I'll probably talk an hour, because you've seen me on this. I like to talk, but to me, it's value. I don't sit there and just like tease people, whatever, man. If we can get in something, even if somebody calls and we're going through something and we resolve an issue in that free, great, rock and roll. I'm not about the money. I'm not about anything like that. I'm about helping people. That's my heart.
Yeah.
So,
And actually, I talked to Steve yesterday. Yeah, I just check in with people before they come on the podcast, just to kind of go over, hey, what do you think about talking about this? Or are you okay talking about that? And he actually said to me, he said, well, I said, of course, I'll plug your program and, get your website out there to everybody. And his response to me was, you know, if it organically evolves into that, that's great, but that's not what we need. That's not why I'm coming on your podcast, and that's not what we need to do on your podcast. So, it's funny because we talked a lot about it today. And it just happened that way. It just evolved naturally on its own. Our intent was to talk more about, men going through divorce, which we will do in our next podcast. That's one thing about my podcast. It's a beauty of having your own podcast is that you get to do whatever the hell you want.
Right.
And I don't like doing a very scripted podcast. I like just kind of seeing where it goes on its own and
And
following it that
we're
way.
really good at that, Betsy. I mean, we'll say, just like our other ones we were doing, it's like, let's talk about this. And then, all the way through, it's like, man, that's not even what we were going to talk about, because it is organic. We go where we need to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really hope that everybody got something out of this today. If you have any questions or comments, please do not hesitate, because I'd love to hear from all of you. If you have any suggestions on things that you'd like to hear more about, or things that, you'd like to touch on for subject matter for future podcasts, I'd love to hear that. And just make sure that you look in the show notes for stevestaystrongstayfocused.com. Just follow, subscribe, do all that stuff, because I'm asking for your help here. That just really helps get the word out to more people, which is, again, why I'm doing this. And again, why Steve has transitioned from having a private practice into trying to do these digital programs and having more of an online presence, because we can just reach more people, which is,
Right on.
what it's all about.
Right on.
So, all right. Well, next time we'll talk about funny moments that we've had together.
Nice.
We're going to talk about motorcycle next time, because you said it again today, but I didn't say anything. Hey, if today's conversation inspired you, please consider leaving a review, commenting, and sharing this episode with somebody who could benefit. And don't forget to follow us on YouTube, subscribe and follow on YouTube to stay updated. And I want to shout out to Audio Alchemy Productions for making this podcast a success. Until next time, keep embracing your journey and empowering your life.